Well, whoops. Hold on. Wait a minute. The camera's not working. Lots of technical difficulties today. There we go. All right, there we go. Yeah, I don't know what. I don't know what all that was about. I don't know if my computer needed to reboot or what, but it just shut off and then we lost the stream. Ah, such is life. What are you gonna do, right? There we go. We got our music back. Woo! It about wrecked us. About took us down. We're so back. We're so back. I should probably, since I had to make a whole new stream, I should probably let people know. Let's see. LOL, I heard a Windows error sound. Someone said in Discord, so it's Windows. It's a Windows problem. Apologies. Had some technical difficulties. We are back here. Knock on wood. That's only happened to me like once or twice since I've started to stream, so I've been lucky to date. That was funny. I just heard da-ding and everything went black. All right. So this test is actually going to fail. Unable to get records. Client.getRecords by app ID is not a function. Get records. No. Get fields. That's what we want. Yeah, this is doing what I would expect. So if I go to get, let's see, let's just grep for it. Get records tool. So it's in here that I need to do something. I need to throw an error when I can't find a field. And I'm not currently doing anything like that. So I need to think about it. Hello, Loaf. How you doing? Voldy, I've streamed on Twitch 2 times. Never had a technical difficulty except for myself not having a Windows 98 product key. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, this is the nature of the beast, right? Sometimes shit's gonna break. Hello, JJ Davis. How are you? You doing well? Having yourself a fine Wednesday? Loaf has awoken. I like that. Doing good. Good. I'm glad. I'm happy to hear you guys are doing well. It's nice to have people that are most of the time having good days in chat. Nobody's crashing out in chat. Hello, Ducky Dev. You're back, and now with different stream style. You think the style of the stream's different? Maybe I think the light might be brighter now. The way my apartment building sits, this time of day, the sun, like, it's coming down on this side, and I've got a window right here, and it seems like as the afternoon goes on, it gets brighter and brighter in here, and I constantly have to adjust my ISO. Ducky Dev, now, oh, what you mean is text? Yeah, so, Ducky Dev, I crash out a lot in chat frequently. JJ Davis, been busy the past week and a half, just chilling today, about to smoke. Nice, JJ Davis. I'm glad, man. I'm glad you're having a chill day. Yeah, we added the total line change thing because somebody, I can't remember, I think it was Code. His name's Code Brew CS. He suggested it because there was one night I was streaming and I was trying to write code, but I had literally written like one line of code in 30 minutes. So they thought that I needed an accountability system to keep me honest. So this is what we came up with. I think the ask now is to turn it into a line graph. They want to see a line graph of like lines of code written over the course of the stream. And so I've yet to debate if I'm going to put effort into making that happen. But I think it's a fun little addition. It's unique. Oh, yeah, somebody said they planted lemon seeds. So nice. I'm glad your lemon seed is sprouting. I would prefer Voldy's mangoes though. So my mom's family is from Honduras. And I got to go to Honduras when I was like 12 or 13. And that was like one of the best parts of visiting there was the place that we stayed. My grandma, my mom's mom, owned this house in the city. And it had like a courtyard in the middle of it. And it had 3 mango trees in it. And that was like the best part, was just like gorging ourselves on mangoes while we were there. I think mango is kind of an underrated fruit, honestly. Chatan. Hello, bro. Hello, Chatan. How are you? Ducky Dev. Steven has one of the most wholesome chats of all time. Yeah, that's definitely not like it used to be. We're talking about planting lemons and mangoes now. The trolls, I guess, have gotten the message. They should stay away. Lest they be booted. Alright, so I think the way I'm going to do this is I'm actually going to so I'm going to rename this, and I'm going to call this fields to find. And then what I'm going to do is if we find a field, right? That's what this is basically doing here. We found a field that matches based on name. I'm going to remove it from yeah, I'm going to remove it. And I think that actually makes more sense to do in a for loop. So we're going to say for that index, field name. I'll do does that work, or do I need to call entries on that? There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that. Does splice mutate? Does anybody remember splice? I can never remember which array methods mutate the array versus don't mutate the array. Let's see. Array dot splice. Hey, what's up, Butterscotch? How are you? Kenji, question. It's more important leak code or pet projects to land a job, in your opinion? Kenji, I would think pet projects if it was me. I mean, I think some amount of leak coding is probably good if you're expecting an interview to force you to do some sort of data structure and algorithm type of technical ability. But I feel like pet projects are better. They're a better proxy for what you're capable of, in my opinion. Your ability to have an idea or to have a problem and then think about solving it and coming up with a way to solve it and being able to talk about why you did what you did and the decisions you made and the trade-offs you made. I don't know. That's my opinion. But you have to take it with a grain of salt because I haven't hired people for developer jobs, nor have I interviewed for a lot of them. So take what I say with a grain of salt. Trevor, never seen NeoVim in PowerShell, to be honest. Yeah, I might be the only guy in the world that's doing it like that. Trevor, I haven't seen it myself either. Ducky Dev, not gonna lie, leak code ain't used so much anymore. Well, that's good. So there you go, Kenji. Ducky Dev might have more input on that, and look like Voldy's on the same page as us. Voldy, you get experience plus enjoyment from something you build yourself. Yeah, and I agree with that. And I just think being able to go in front of a room full of people and say, here's, like, for example, I can use one of my projects, for example. Like being able to go in front of a room of people and say, here's better yet if you can demo what you built, right? So let's say you have a project. I built a project called Onyx Graph, right? And you could say, I built this project called Onyx Graph. The purpose of this project is to allow users of, in this case, a particular application called OnSpring, to build visual representations of how the apps in their instance are related to each other and to inspect that data in a meaningful way. And you could talk about, I built this in a client server architecture. It's deployed using containers on a virtual private server. You could talk about your technology choices and why you chose them. I think this just serves as a better demonstration of your abilities than leak code. And maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I think. Like in this case, I implemented auth, right? So you could talk about how you implemented the login and how you do the registration and, how do you perform that validation, all those different things. Spitzel Pit. Hello, Spitzel Pit. That's kind of a fun username to say. David, hey, what plugin do you use for completion in NeoVim? I use, let me look. Give me 1 second to open up my config. I'm pretty sure it's in Vim CMP. is the name of the plugin. I'm pretty sure. Hold on one second. Edit in Vim config. Is it in LSP? I can't remember where it's at now. But I can grep for it, can't I? I think it's this one right here. CMP in Vim LSP, I think, is what provides all that completion behavior. That largely, if you want to know a lot more about that, that largely came from that bit of configuration largely came from NeoVim for noobs. Yeah, it largely came from this course here. It's really good. Super good. I haven't looked at my configs in a minute. I bet people look at mine and are like, God, this guy has no fucking clue what he's doing. What else? There's completions. Yeah, so I use CMP in Vim LSP, then CMP Lua snip. I also have from friendly snippets. The friendly snippets is what gives you the VS Code like snippets completion. Trevor, my side projects got me my interviews. Also, a portfolio website helps show off. So I'm not, Trevor, you guys are going to have to listen to these people in my chat more because they actually have gone out and gotten jobs like that. And I just haven't had to interview for jobs like that or hire people for jobs like that. David Talenko, is it Kickstart? It is not Kickstart. So all my configuration was just a ground up build. I followed NeoVim for noobs, and then after I got done with NeoVim for noobs, I basically started to configure it and customize it to support kind of my development workflow, which has been fun. Loaf, should I buy a MacBook Air M4? Currently using an almost 10-year-old laptop. Had 3 blue screens this week. I mostly enjoy Mac OS and Linux. I mean, go for it, man. Why not, right? If you got the money and you got a 10-year-old laptop, full send. Foldy, also, I like how you accepted me onto the Discord even though I wasn't in the chat before that. Well, I figure people are going to find my Discord link. It's out there in public, right? So, I mean, as long as people prove themselves not to be strange and odd and malicious, then they're welcome to hang out in the Discord, you know? Kenji, thanks for all the responses. I already have a game and a game engine I did with my team for Steam, but I think I have to work in other great projects. Yeah, I think, Kenji, it's more about crafting your portfolio or your projects so that they speak to whatever skills your future employer would find valuable, Kenji, right? So it's like, if you're trying to get a job as a web developer, people probably don't care as much about your game dev background. Although it is impressive, they probably don't care as much. But if you're going to work somewhere where they develop using the MERN stack, or if you're going to work somewhere where they build backends with .NET, being able to have a portfolio piece that demonstrates that that you know how to build backends in .NET, or you know how to build a full stack app using the MERN stack, would be much more useful, I think. Ducky Death, not gonna lie, I want a MacBook, but I don't want to shell out my wallet. Yes, I think I talked about this the last couple of days. That I'm a 32-year-old dad of 2. I would love to have all the Apple products. Unfortunately, I also have to save for college educations and cars and retirement and all the responsible things. Loaf, thank you for the response. Of course, Loaf. Ducky Steven, why do we have to wait to get accepted? I don't know. I guess it just makes me feel a little bit better that maybe having a little bit of friction to join the Discord, like a little bit, like, right? It's not very much, right? It's literally like 2 questions, but maybe just that will keep out some of the riffraff on the internet. That's why. David, got it. Do you have a .files repo? I think I'll find a lot of interesting stuff here. I do not have a .files repo because, unfortunately, I'm not that organized yet. I do have a NeoVim config repo, though. Let me get you that link real quick. I'm always super impressed by those guys that have all their .files in one repo, and they've got them all organized by, like, they've got them organized into like folders by application name that they're used in, and I'm always super impressed with it. I've just never taken the time to actually set up one myself. Here's the NeoVim configs, and obviously, if you have any questions, happy to answer. I'm not a NeoVim expert, but I'm having a lot of fun learning like everybody else. So, Ravillo, hello, Ravillo. How are you doing, man? I saw you join the Discord. Was it yesterday or the day before? So good to have you in there, man. Appreciate you. Voldy said, I was working on some batch projects last week. I was bored of any other programming languages, so I started to go back to the Stone Age. Yeah, I've never really written batch files. Almost all the scripting stuff I've done has been either in PowerShell or Bash. And even then, I think if I'm gonna write like a more complex script, a lot of times I'll just do something in Node, like, or in JavaScript, and just use Node to run it. Because Node is so pervasive in most places, like in almost all the places that I would run a script, Node's available. I know not everyone's so lucky. I have a colleague at work that writes a lot of he does a lot of client work, let's just say, with building basically integrations between systems, but they're essentially scripts that run, on a cron job. And he always tells me that in a lot of enterprisey environments, the only thing he has to work with is PowerShell. Which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with PowerShell, but like, if you had to write a JavaScript script file versus a PowerShell script file, I'd probably rather write JavaScript version. So that's just me. Abu, what is the update of your MCP server? Okay, so Abu, here's where we're at with the MPC server. We have a lot of things going well. I'm trying to add tests today. That's what I was trying to do, was trying to get caught up on test coverage. I am at a sticking point with one of the tools, and I can kind of show you what I have going on there real quick before I... Hold on, I made a change here, didn't I? Hold on, I don't want to break... Get records tool. I did something in this function. Hold on, Abu, one sec. Let me just make sure that... I'm pretty sure slice mutates the array, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so it mutates the array. Okay, that's fine. So yeah, so the MCP server is going well. I'm writing tests at the moment. One of the things, though, that's come up is in my query tool. So if I go back to my... I'm already here. Query records. So in my query tool, I have this filter, right? This guy. Oh, actually, hold on. That's not there. It's in my server. So I have a tool that allows me to search for data. And in order to search for that data, I need the LLM to provide me with a filter. Now, let me show you what happens when I give it the schema that I've defined here. And I haven't been able to I haven't spent much time, but I haven't been able to figure out how to fix this. Hold on, I don't want to start Claude just yet. Let me build my project real quick. Sorry, I'm getting... I'm all over the place. Hold on. Just wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. npm run build. Okay, now we'll start Claude. And then I'm going to say, let's see. Can you find me all the records in my users app which have the full name equal to Stephen Freeborn? So this is where I'm expecting Claude to be smart and to use this tool right here. Which it does. At first it looks like it's going to check that it's going to make sure it can connect, which is good. And now hopefully it's going to use the query records tool. Okay, so here's the problem right here. I'm hoping this illustrates it. So this filter, it's going to keep trying, going to keep failing. But this filter param that's generating an input for is a complex object. This is the correct object, but it's passing it as a string, as a stringified object instead of the object itself. So it's breaking when it passes from the client to the server. However, if I make a small change, let me quit Claude really quick. Bear with me. If I make a change and I change this to rule, right? So this is a much simpler schema. It's not like nested, and it's not recursive like the other one. And then I build the project. And now I go back to Claude. And I basically do the same thing. Can you get me all the records in my users app whose full name equals Stephen Freeborn? This time it should work. For whatever reason, however that schema that I built is being passed over to the LLM, it doesn't like it. Right? So this is a valid filter. See how this is an actual object and not like a string? So yeah, so I haven't quite figured out what to do there. But we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. That's the update. I'm writing tests. I have a bug I can't fix. Ah, such is life. Of course, David. Yeah, I hope those NVim configs help you out there. I can't... Diaz? I'm just going to call you Diaz. Hello, Diaz. From the Philippines. Good to have you here. Mike, what you coding? Mike, I'm working on a model context protocol server. Ducky Dev, I want to make a project like React that transpiles JS into PowerShell script. Have you guys seen the... there's a TypeScript to Lua compiler that people use. It seems like a lot of people use it to build NeoVim plugins. TypeScript to Lua compiler. This is pretty interesting. So you write your TypeScript because, you know, you're a TypeScript dev, and it translates it into its Lua equivalent. I thought that was pretty interesting. Hello, my name is Queen. Hello, Syntax Queen. Hope you're doing well. I see you have a question. Fire away. Happy to answer your question. FNAF man, hello. How have you been? It's been a while, man. Good to see you again. Personal email. What language is this? I'm working in TypeScript right now, is what I'm writing in. And it looks like Voldy had my back on that one. Thank you, Voldy. Cigar, hello. Hello, Cigar. How are you? The market decoder. Is this text editor Vim? It's Vim-like. It's NeoVim. Oh, Voldy. Voldy got that one too. Thank you, Voldy. It's very kind. You're picking up on my slack here. Loaf, check the MacBook Air M4 is around 1.1 something. Some denomination. I don't know what that is. We get about 100 per month for having an average grade over 9.5. So that would mean that the laptop would cost me 1 year of school. Woo! Yeah, I don't know, man. I might try to find something that's a little bit more budget friendly than. I don't know if I'd trade a year's worth of wages or a year's worth of school money or chore money or whatever it is for that. That seems like a lot of money for you. Arkin, I'm making coffee to this. Well, Arkin, you're right up our alley. I've said this a couple different times on stream, but the vibe we're kind of going for here in the stream is sort of like you and your buddies all decided to meet at a coffee shop and work on some side projects together. That's kind of the vibe that we're going for in the stream. Ducky Dev, they also build Roblox games with it. Oh, you mean they build Roblox games with TypeScript to Lua? Or they use Lua to build Roblox games? Butterscotch. Lua is so simple and straightforward language. Butterscotch, honestly, I don't know it that well. Like, I fumbled around with it, obviously, to get my NeoVim editor, like, all configured. But I don't know it. So I probably should. It's probably worth me taking like a backseat and trying to actually learn how to write that language. But at this point, I'm supposed to be writing Go. I'm supposed to be learning Go. I'm supposed to be learning Rust. I think Stefan, one of my chatters, he wants me to learn C. There's too many languages to learn and not enough time in the day. Reza, what's up, Reza? How are you? Good to have you here, man. Mark, no vibing. Now get back to work. I don't know, Mark. I'm not sure if you're the kind of person I'd invite to the coffee shop with me. Tariq, lines changed 600. Issues closed 0. Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong, Tariq. You're not wrong. Abu, if you stuck in a specific error and it took a long time or you can't fix it, how do you deal with your manager? So my current manager is not very technical, but hypothetically, if I had a situation like you're describing, Abu, which is, I would imagine, like you're part of a software engineering team, you have an engineering manager, you're struggling through something, I would say if you stopped making progress for like an hour or two, and you've done the Stack Overflowing and you've done the Google Foo and you've asked ChatGPT and you are lost, pull the ripcord and go to your manager and say, look, I need some help. Maybe help from a teammate, help from them, but definitely don't sit with it. Right? That's the worst thing you can do, because if you've exhausted all your options, you've taken a walk, you've done your research, no amount of just sitting with the issue or sitting with that error is going to then all of a sudden cause like an epiphany, likely, right? Or the likelihood of it is pretty low, and all you will have done is just eaten up a bunch of time. So I would say very early on, maybe an hour or two of stalled progress, it's probably worth raising a red flag. Arkin, you said side projects. Deal. I will grind on C instead of Java as long as your stream is live. Subscribed. Cool, man. Good. Get your coffee and do your C. Although I can't help you with any of it because I don't know C. Loaf, in my opinion, Lua makes no sense. Well, you're entitled to an opinion. I'm sure there's people on the other side of that argument that are like, Loaf, you make no sense. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, on any topic there's two stories, right? One sec, I gotta adjust the ISO because the sun has decided to continue to bless me with more light. Loaf, TS, JS or TS is better. I usually make Discord bots, but haven't tried to make one in TypeScript for a while. Yeah, I mean, I would agree that TS is better than Lua from the little bit of Lua I've written, but everybody has their preferences. Bree, what game is this? This is not a game. This is NeoVim, and I'm working on writing some unit tests for an MCP server that I'm building. And so far I haven't, as you can see, I've written 73 lines, or I've changed 73 lines. So you judge the productivity that has been happening on stream today. It's not it's not a game. It's a text editor. Although when you watch people use NeoVim, like good people who are not me, people who are good at using NeoVim, it kind of looks like a game, doesn't it? I mean, honestly. Y'all seen Fork of Vim? Yes, it is a fork of Vim, or like an extension of Vim, maybe. Abu, how to be a quality engineer like you? Abu, honestly, I mean, it's hard for me to give you good advice, because I kind of stumbled into it. So I started as a support analyst. Then the company opened a position for a quality analyst, which is basically just somebody who only does manual testing, and I took that job. And the only real requirement there, and I think it's a big requirement for most quality jobs, is you just need to be very, very knowledgeable about whatever product you're testing. And then while all that was happening, I was also learning coding and programming and web development in my free time. And then when the company I work for was basically like, hey, we need to get more sophisticated about our testing or our approach to testing, we want to look at some automation pieces. I basically had prepared myself to have the skill set to be able to raise my hand and be like, hey, I know that's not my job, but I'd be happy to take a shot at it. And so I went through 2 or 3 POCs using Selenium a couple times, and then ultimately landing on Playwright, and was like, here, this is what I think we should do. And they loved it. And then that eventually turned into an actual full-time like quality engineer position. So I don't know if that's how it goes all the time. It seems like a lot of companies have dedicated spots for quality engineers and automated or quality automation engineers. There seems like there's a lot of titles out there on LinkedIn like that. So it might just come down to like applying for those gigs, Hazaif, hey, why do you not use landscape in the stream? I think Voldy answered that. Yeah, just discoverability on YouTube. Like my biggest issue as a small streamer, small content creator is just discoverability. And it seems like right now on YouTube, the shorts feed, the vertical feed is the best way to find discoverability, to get yourself exposed to people who wouldn't otherwise find your stuff. So that's why I do it. Amlord, teach me. What do you want me to teach you, Amlord? Deba Barata says, first time seeing someone using NeoVim on Windows. Chat, have we not had like, we've had like 5 or 6 people say that, so I must be truly a unicorn. Hey, what's up, Pablo? How are you? Yeah, man, do your studying. For sure. Y'all seen, what are you unit testing? I guess you might not really call it unit testing because it's actually more like an integration test is more what I'm writing. But I am writing tests for the tools that I've built for my model context protocol server. So the way this kind of architecture works is basically your server amounts to a bunch of functions that you're exposing to it. Like in this case, I have a tool called Get Records, which basically exposes this particular piece of functionality, this Get Records tool. And so I'm testing the logic that's in these tools to basically say, hey, when it can't find an app ID, does it return an error? You know, if it can't find the fields, does it return the right response? If everything goes hunky-dory, does it return the right response? Does it handle when there is more than one page, right? Does it page correctly through the records? So that's what I'm writing tests for. Voldy, I'm answering every question so Steven can get time to do his stuff. Voldy, I appreciate you helping out, man, but you definitely don't have to feel obligated to, because honestly, if I wanted to be uber productive, right, I probably wouldn't be, I probably wouldn't do that on stream, right? Part of streaming is talking to you guys and interacting with you guys. Arkin, I discovered you through YT Shorts. You are right. Okay, very cool. That's awesome. So that kind of gives some credence to my theory. I mean, the data proves it out. Just looking at the statistics of like if I stream horizontally, 3 or 4 people show up. If I stream, and I think most of those 3 or 4 people are people that are already in my orbit, right? They're usually members of my Discord. Versus if I stream vertically, I get both people that are already subscribed to me, are members of my Discord, but then I also seem to have people who are brand new show up. Loaf, 73 lines change. Yeah, and none of it's committed yet. How can you explain your code? Is that you're saying? You want me to explain the code? Is that what you're asking, Loaf? Abu, oh, there are lots of struggle to be a quality engineer back there. I think I get what you mean, Abu. I mean, it can be a struggle. I just don't think it's always such a straightforward path as compared to something like, you know, a software engineer job, right? I also think it's less industry standard. It seems like, you know, quality engineer at one company can mean something different at another. Loaf, I can never explain my code. Oh, that's what you mean. I feel like streaming and talking about what you're doing with your code helps be able to explain it. I think it's just like with anything. It just takes reps, right? The more you have to explain what you're doing, the better you get at it. Not that I think I'm good at it, but Mark, explaining your code is easier if you can organize your thoughts and break them down into smaller pieces. Yeah, I agree with that, Mark. I also find like pictures help a lot. Like that's just the way my brain thinks. I feel like drawing and writing stuff out helps me explain things better. Souls like me. One time I streamed and I got booed. Now I'm sad. Don't let him get you down. Souls like me. I mean, that's just people like that are lame. You know, you just ignore them. You ever heard that saying, like, you know, people who are on the court don't worry about people that are in the stands, right? So if you're out there, you're creating, you're streaming, who gives a shit what some random ass person says negatively to you on the internet? I wouldn't let it stop you from doing it. Hector Timo, why you have applications enabled for your Discord? I mentioned this earlier. Somebody asked about this. The main reason I have them there is just to keep out the riffraff. I don't know about you guys, but internet trolls are fairly lazy individuals. And so, or that's been my experience. So I add just a little bit of friction. Like, hey, if you want to join the Discord, you got to put in a little bit of work. You got to put some text into 2 boxes and click submit, and then we'll let you in. So I mean, to me that seems like a halfway decent effort at just keeping out people who just maybe want to join to just spam the heck out of the server. Yeah, what Voldy said exactly. Mark, talking through your code out loud helps too. It really does, Mark. I mean, honestly, like, there's been times where I've worked with some of our developers at work where they're stuck on some bug or something that I reported, and I know my only value to help them with it is sometimes just to get on a call and just listen to them explain to me what the problem is, why there's a difficulty, why it's complex, and half the time that's enough to kind of get them over whatever hump they're stuck on. I feel like LLMs are pretty good at that too. You know, that whole idea of like rubber ducking, just talking through it. This is what I want to do. This is what I think the problem is. Here's what I'm not sure about. Yeah, vocalizing your thoughts. It's almost like writing, basically, is what it is, right? It's another way to sort of force yourself to make tangible whatever things are floating around in your head. Hector, this might annoy some people. I don't know, but I get your point. Yeah, I mean, Hector, if it does annoy some people, I mean, not to be an ass, I don't give a shit. You know, if you can't take the effort to fill in 2 text box on a Discord, invite link, then that's on you, man. You know, that's rubber duck theory. Yeah, rubber duck theory is a real thing. Like, it's not necessarily coding related, but like I find I like to write when I have a problem that I don't feel like I understand or that I can't clearly articulate. I like to write. Like, I'll just sit down and write an email, and 9 times out of 10 in the process of writing that email or writing that Slack message, I'm like, oh, wait, now I see my flaw, right? Or now I see the problem. Loaf, I used to spend the 1 hour time period before I go to bed watching random videos. I think this is a better use of my time. Well, thanks for hanging out, Loaf. We appreciate you having you. A weird gamer. How did you learn to code? So if you're interested in watching it, you don't have to watch it because I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna answer your question, a weird gamer. But if you're interested, if you go to my channel and you search for I think it's how I learned. Yeah, this video right here. That basically tells the story of like how I went about learning to code. It's long. It's 25 minutes, so it's a little bit more in depth. But if you're really curious about my journey, there's a video on it. Short answer, though, to your question is I would go to this website called freecodecamp.org. And I'm not sure exactly what you're trying to do with your coding abilities, a weird gamer. This is going to orient you towards learning web development. Even if that's not what you want to do long term, the key thing you're going to learn going through this curriculum is you're going to learn JavaScript. Once you know JavaScript, you can basically do just about whatever you want. Like, JavaScript has kind of eaten the world. It's the native language of the browser. You can write code that runs on a server. You can write code that runs on the client. You can use it to build native apps, right, through things like React Native. So that's probably where I would start if you're brand new to it, the whole thing. That's where I'd point you. Yeah. Let's see. Abu, is your responsibility is just manual testing, or you have other responsibilities as well? Yeah. So Abu, I kind of have a weird position where I work. So my two main responsibilities are manual and automated testing. Manual testing is what we do for most of the new features we build, and then we add automated testing to cover existing functionality once it's in the platform or once it's in our product. But then I also have some weird responsibilities around like troubleshooting more complex client issues. I'm also oftentimes farmed out to do like one-off projects for other departments. Like if a department needs a particular piece of software for XYZ, I'm typically offered up as a resource to do that kind of work. I mean, as you can imagine, like the ability to build software or write code is kind of a scarce resource inside most organizations outside of like Silicon Valley. If you're just talking about like normal everyday companies. So I do that too. So I kind of have a mixed bag of responsibilities. Am Lord, I think I'm the only Indian right now watching your stream at 140. I have a dream to become a coder one day, but my English is honestly terrible. I am Lord. I'm sure you could still learn how to code, and you could definitely probably figure out the English thing as you need to. But I'd encourage you, man. Pursue your dream, dude. There's nothing stopping you really. There's so many, especially when it comes to learn. Especially when you say if you just want to learn how to code, there's just so many free resources now available, assuming you have access to the internet. um, so I would 100% encourage you to do it. Go and get it. Say Mello, whenever I want to learn something complicated, writing documentation is the best way I can learn it. Yeah, and honestly, through that documentation process, you clearly identify what you know, and you clearly identify what you don't know, right? I feel like, and that's something I feel people sometimes push back a lot on, like writing to think, but it really is just a super productive use of time. Like 99%, I think, of people's, maybe not 99%, let's say 95% of people's confusion, their own confusion, could probably be solved by spending some time writing. A weird gamer, thanks so much. It's my dream to code. Yeah, go get it, a weird gamer. Hey, there's Stefan. What's up, man? I dare you to read everything with no mistake. Well, I'm always going to make mistakes, Stefan. Good to see you, dude. Justin, does AI affect your work? Currently, Justin, AI hasn't really affected my work. I mean, other than like you use it, you know, but like in terms of like disrupting what I do on a daily basis, or hasn't had much of an impact in my world. Stone Cold Steve Rock, is this a bot code? No, this is a model context protocol server. That's what the code is meant to do. It's basically meant to be like an API with the primary user being an LLM. If you can kind of think of it like that. A weird gamer. And let's say I learned JavaScripting or JavaScript. Where do I use it to make stuff like apps? Well, you can use it in the browser, right? So like if you know JavaScript, you could essentially, if you know JavaScript, if you know CSS, HTML, and JavaScript, you can literally make an index.html file and build a to-do app. That's not the recommended way to do it, but you could build a to-do app that runs in your browser and it runs locally for you, and you're the only one who uses it, and it's just your app that services your needs. Of course, if you want to do something that's more complex, if you want to build an application for other people to use, right? Then you have to keep gaining additional skills, right? You're going to need to not only know how to build the app, but then you're going to need to know how to build the back end, right? Front end and back end. You're going to need to figure out how to host it. So there's a lot, a Weird Gamer. There's a lot to it, but you just do it a little bit at a time, right? You figure out how to write JavaScript. You figure out how that works in the browser. Then you figure out how to use JavaScript to build a back end, right? You figure out how to get the two talking. Then you start thinking about, okay, how would this run on a computer that more than one person could access? A Weird Gamer, like, where do I use it? Like, where do I type the codes in? You're going to use probably VS Code would be a great place to start. VS Code is a great editor. But a Weird Gamer, a lot of the questions like you're asking, those two questions you're asking me, a lot will become clear once you start learning. Like, you'll start to develop a mental model of like, okay, so the JavaScript is text in these files. And then there's another program called Node that interprets the code or the text that's in these files and knows how to translate those pieces of text to actual instructions, right? So like you'll start to form a mental model once you start actually learning it. See you, Stefan. Thanks for stopping in, man. Appreciate you stopping by. Yeah, Voldy, ID, JetBrains, VS Code. VS Code is probably what I would recommend to get started authoring some code. Butterscotch. Yeah, just build. Yeah, exactly. Butterscotch. Like, that would be my thing. Like, just build, start learning a little bit, then build something in that mental model. You'll start to think like, oh, so this is where the code runs, and these are the programs that interpret the code or compile the code, right? Then there's different programs that handle routing traffic, right, from clients to servers. You just kind of you learn as you go, right? As you need to figure out how to solve the next problem, right? You learn about that thing. And Free Code Camp's great because it's a very structured curriculum, right? It's going to walk you through that stuff. A Weird Gamer. Okay, thanks, bro. I'm subbing for sure. I appreciate that, Weird Gamer. Thanks for the sub, man. Noise. Your mic looks cool. Thanks, man. It's actually a super cheap mic. I bought this probably, well, before I had kids. I bought it at Best Buy for like $50. It's just a blue snowball microphone. It's not anything high dollar. Abu, why don't you use VS Code? Abu, I did. So for the longest time, I did use VS Code. That's pretty much the only. I mean, I did a little bit in Visual Studio, but for the most part, everything I've built over the years has been using VS Code or editing it with VS Code. And I decided to I decided to try the adventure of switching to NeoVim just for the fun of it. Really, that was. I wish I had a more elegant explanation, but that was really it. It was just for the fun of it. A neat buddy. I want to develop a cool messaging app, not just as a hobby, but a professional one that scales well. I want some suggestions on the possibility of that flying high. Yeah. And Keith, I think you first don't worry about the scale. Right? The first thing you do is you make something that works. Then you make something that works well. Then you get lots of users, and then you worry about making sure you have an app that scales. Now, I see a lot of content on the interwebs that get people really caught up on architecture and scalability of the thing they built. But for the vast majority of us, the likelihood we're ever going to have 1 million users on anything we build, maybe even 100,000 users on anything we build, is pretty low. So my advice would be, first, build a messaging app that works. Get it working. then make it work well, make it work reliably, then actually start trying to get some users, right? And then through the usage of your app, having more users use your app, that will reveal to you things that you need to do to make it work better. And you can probably go pretty far on that initial working well thing you build before you ever have to get into super complex conversations about scalability. A weird gamer. Oh, you got kids? I do. I have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old. Third grader and a first grader. Third grader and a first grader. It sounded like I said gator there for a minute. Justin Pack. Or you can go to college, man. It's not all that expensive. Justin Pack, are you really saying college is not expensive? What college did you go to, Justin? I went to a small state school in the United States, and I still paid damn near $6,000 a semester. Between 4 and 6 a semester. So, I mean, college is expensive. It just hands down is expensive. Arkin, I tried to start with Atom, couldn't get the C compiler output window running, got discouraged, procrastinated learning coding for a full year, did it again, failed again, finally did my first programming in micro editor. Well, that's awesome, Arkin. Way to have persistence, man. Yeah, failure is a lot of times is part of the process. You know, there's actually a lot of literature around smoking cessation. And I think it's something like the average person, the average person who quits smoking will attempt and fail at it like 8 or 10 times before they finally succeed. So having false starts, right, at learning something or adapting a new behavior or getting rid of an old behavior, it's kind of the process, right? Because you learn from each attempt. Butterscotch, better luck scaling WebSockets. Yeah, I think that's usually the scale issue, right? Butterscotch is if you do use something like WebSockets, like I think even so Microsoft's WebSocket product SignalR, they tell you that like at 100,000 connections or something like that, you start having issues with scalability. And I think there's even a dedicated service, SignalR service through Azure that's supposed to help with that, which is kind of interesting. You probably end up having to use some other technology, right? Than using something that's a persistent connection. Abu, is remote job opportunity less than before? I'm looking for a remote job, but it's hard to find. I do think, Abu, remote job opportunities are less of a thing. I think they're still out there, but I mean, you've seen the news. At least here in the U.S., the news over the last year and a half with lots of companies doing return to office type things. There was actually a kid that my kid goes to school with. His dad worked at Amazon, and they live near us, and they obviously, Amazon did a return to work policy, and he actually left and got a different job because of it. So I think remote work is still possible. Here's the thing with remote work. I think for the vast majority of leaders and management, remote work is an easy scapegoat for lack of performance or lack of results, right? It's an easy way to blame the lack of results on something and buy them more time to figure out what the real problem is, in my opinion. A neat kit. Can I ask you how much experience you have in the development field? Just curious. I don't have a ton, Anki. I have 4 or 5 years of building projects on my own separately, not for professional, not for companies or large scale use cases. And then I have about 3 years of experience now doing automated testing as like a professional job, you know. If I had the same goal of developing a messaging app, what would I do? I'd probably write the backend in C#. I'd write the front end in, yeah, I'd probably write the back end in C#. I'd use SignalR for the real time back and forth. Which is just WebSockets, but SignalR would be the library I'd probably pick that's wrapped around that technology. I'd probably write the front end in Vue, and I'd get that working, and I would try to get as many users as I could using that until it breaks, and then reconsider architecture and stuff when it breaks. Because I just think the likelihood of growing beyond 100,000 users is probably pretty small for a messaging app that I built as a web app, right? Like, I just think it's probably pretty small. Because you're and Keith, when you're talking about building a messaging app, you're talking about competing with people like iMessage. You're talking about competing with RCS. You're talking about competing with Discord. All these existing entrenched players with really large network effects, right? That's the problem with messaging applications is in order to make them useful, you need to have all the people you normally talk to on that same messaging app. And I don't know about you guys, but have you ever tried to get your family to stop using iMessage, right? If you're an iPhone family, to stop using iMessage and use WhatsApp, that's a really hard sell. So that's probably where I would start with. But I wouldn't worry too much about the scale thing. Because ideally, if you ever get to 100,000 users and you have a real business with your messaging app, then you can hire a kick-ass team of engineers to help you figure out the scaling. Allie, hey there, handsome. Hello, Allie. Code Brew, what's up, Code Brew? Good to see you. And Keith, you are from the US. Can you tell me what is the most preferred means of text-based communication and file sharing? The most preferred means of text-based communication would be iMessage, or if you have an Android phone, then it would be whatever the default messaging app is on your Android phone. That's the 100% the most common use for communicating via text. I would also say it's probably the most common for file sharing, and probably the most common type of file shared is a video or a picture. Let me have it, Voldy. Send over your idea. Code Brew, gotta go. Have a good day. Well, Code Brew, we enjoyed it while you were here. Abu, do you have a CS degree? I do not have a CS degree, Abu. I have a degree in biochemistry. Code Brew. Hey, Steven, I see you put the lines changed. Yes, I did. I did put the lines changed. I did do that. Need to add a to-do here. Need to check if fields to find is not empty. And if so, throw an error. Sorry, I wanted to commit this because I have to start wrapping up. Have to go back to work. And no WhatsApp in the USA? No, I think there are people who use WhatsApp. I don't know how big of a share of people who use it. Like, nobody I message on a daily basis uses WhatsApp. Never have. I don't think they ever will, probably. Seems like WhatsApp is very big outside of the States, and just not as big of a deal inside the States. Don't know why, but I think some people use Facebook Messenger. But yeah, in my experience, and granted, I'm a small sample, right? Boldy, what if you do a Q&A for your Discord members and I try to answer some to take some pressure? Yeah, I think a Q&A would be fun. Which is honestly, Q&A is kind of what streams turn into anyway, right? Sometimes. Which is fun. Yeah, what Maddox said. That's and Keith. That's what Maddox just said is really important too. I don't think a ton of us are communicating a ton across telecom networks, right? Like we're everybody we talk to is already based in the States for the most part. Hello, Manish. Good to have you. I'm from India at this time. There's night, but I am in Kansas, which is in the United States, and it is 3:37 p.m. here currently. Voldy, just tell me the schedule. I'll handle the rest. Yeah, we'll have to figure something out there, Voldy. WhatsApp is really popular in Romania. I use it almost every single day. Yeah, it's interesting because chat applications definitely seem to be a thing outside of the US. But in my experience, most people who live in the US just use whatever RSC, SMS, iMessage that comes as part of their phone. I don't see a lot of people using other messaging apps. And that's probably like because of what Maddox said, is because we're all communicating across the same telco infrastructure. There's not a need to use some other layer on top of that. Yeah, sounds good, Voldy. We'll figure something out. All right, guys. I would love to stay and keep streaming and keep writing code, but lunchtime for me is over, and so I've got to go back to the day job and do the work that pays the bills. But I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. We had a fun stream today. It was nice, lively chat. Yeah, so I appreciate it. I usually try to, if you're new here, I know a lot of people here are not new here, but if you are new here, I do usually try to stream every weekday at around 2 p.m. CST, in that ballpark of time. So if you're around then and want to hang out, my streams usually involve a lot of chatting, a lot of running my mouth, and some amount of code, and then also drinking coffee. So that's what we try to do. So if you like that and you want to hang out with us, we would love that. Otherwise, check out some of my videos or maybe some of my shorts, and we'll find each other in the comments there. Butterscotch missed my chat. Oh, did I really? GV to go to the last visual. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're trying to improve my Vimfu skills. I appreciate you, Butterscotch, man. I appreciate it. All right, guys. See y'all. You guys have a good rest of your Wednesday. And if it's already